I'm not going to make a whole recipe. If y'all want to know how to make biscuits, you usually use 2 cups of flour to a 1/4 cup of lard or shortening, whichever one you're using. Now, I will tell you this. Lard is sticking to this, and it's a heck of a lot harder to blend into your, I can tell you that right now, your flour. It's not as easy to blend in as shortening is. So if you're not good at blending biscuits, you might have to have some practice before you waste any money on some lard. Don't go out and buy lard to start with, unless you're good at it by then. So now we're going to put in buttermilk. Now when we fry our biscuits in this same, but anyway, when you fry these biscuits, what was I going to say? I don't even remember.
You was pouring the buttermilk in, and you said something about when you fry these biscuits.
I know, I'm crazy. I don't even remember what I was going to tell y'all. Sorry. But you know, when you get to be my age, I am 55. If you wonder how old I am, I'm 55. I was born in 69. Chris was born in 1966, which is the date on this thing. On the recipe book. That's the year on it. Yep. You'll put that in the sink for me? It says to pat these out a 1/2 inch. Okay.
There's your
time. All right, we're going to pat these out a 1/2 inch.
Big old biscuit.
So what we're going to do is fry these in that chicken lard fat. If you had this growing up, I don't know why I'm screaming, but I am. I'm excited because I'm making something new. If you had this growing up, if your mama used lard, let us know. If you still use lard, let us know. And if you've ever had a fried biscuit like this, let us know. Did your mama ever fry a biscuit in the chicken grease? Most people will go, if she did, they probably still ain't alive. That's probably what they'll say.
Somebody the other day said they thought it was funny how he said the feed was pretty.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I say it's good pretty. Looking too. Man, that's good looking chicken.
Handsome. Handsome chicken. Looking.
You really need to let them watch this. They probably ain't never seen a biscuit fry before. And these ain't canned biscuits neither.
I've never seen a biscuit fry before. Watch it for myself.
Wait, I can get you over here, I think, mister. Or can I?
Oh. Yeah, I'd leave them alone for you.
Oh. Now,
look at them. They sorted themselves out.
Let's see what it looks like. Oh my gosh. That is pretty. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit. All right, if you're just coming on, we are frying lard biscuits in lard that we just fried chicken in. And then we're going to make gravy. This is a special meal. Look how pretty that is. Oh, my stars. That's how you're supposed to turn stuff in the order you put it in. Now this ought to be something new that you hadn't seen or had before. You've got to regulate the temperature. And the only thing I know to tell you is when you first put it in there, no matter what you're cooking, the grease is going to cool down a little bit. And then once it's been in there a couple of minutes, the grease is going to heat up. And the grease breaks down a little bit. I guess lard does the same thing. See how that's already browner than the other side got?
Yeah.
If you want us to do more videos like this, that's old-fashioned like this, y'all let us know. Me and Chris can eat it.
We don't need to eat it too much.
We can eat it. I know I'm a little loud and wild sometimes because I get excited. But, you know, that's just the redhead in me. All right, here we go. We're going to take these out. I think they're done.
You can't get excited about a fried biscuit. What can you get excited about?
Should we half one and make sure it's done on the inside? Because we've never done this
I
before.
guess. I bet it's perfect. No, it's raw.
It's raw.
Woo, it's good thing we checked that one.
Yep.
Come back in there, Tammy. Everybody calm down.
You got to let it cook, y'all. Look at there.
See how that one puffed up, though? I wonder if
Look
we should
how pretty it is. It's just got a little bit of raw right in the center.
I wonder
if
we should have cut them even thinner.
No.
You don't think?
No, you just got to be patient.
They really puff up, don't they?
Yeah, they're pretty.
That's why they call them puffs.
That is.
In the recipe.
Now, that's out of it, and you can
Let's see.
see.
That's a real nice looking
It's
biscuit.
pretty. And it's going to be good. Don't y'all wish y'all could get a bite? I think all the ones that I first cut were thick.
Mhm.
I cut them a ½ inch like they said.
Yep.
Now Chris is digging into that.
I can't help it. I got to.
So y'all regulate the temperature.
Oh, Lord.
How is that? I bet that's really good. I mean, really and truly, y'all, it's like frying a donut, a cake donut, except better.
Biscuit donut. It's delicious. But since my grandmother made lard biscuits, that's
I have to say, even I like that.
I mean, that's good.
Yes, it is. You're going to be using a little bit of yeast and a little bit of water. And so we're going to go ahead and turn on our faucet and make sure that it's warm. Doesn't need to be hot, just warm. And we're going to put in about 1.5 teaspoons of yeast, which is about 1/2 of one of these packets. And I'm going to add just a little bit of sugar to it. This is a 1/2 teaspoon scoop. I'm going to use 1.5 teaspoons of sugar. And we're going to just let that sit there. I'm going to stir it up just a little bit. Now we're going to start our biscuits while that sits in there. All right, we're going to use a couple of cups of self-rising flour. I'm making these the way Mama did, and Mama used self-rising flour. If you don't have self-rising flour, then you just need to add your baking powder and soda and salt. But the good thing about using self-rising is you don't have to do all that. We're going to start out with 2 cups of flour. Now, we're going to put in about 1/2 cup of shortening. So you do not have to grease your pan for these. Now, I like to just take a little bit of flour and put it on top of my shortening before I start to cut it in. This is a great tool to cut your shortening. You see how it just flows right through that fork? It's wonderful for biscuits and breads, pie crusts. It's called a blending fork. And you're going to cut the shortening in until it's about pea size. My mother made angel biscuits, and because we grew up in a family that did not make homemade bread, and we hardly ever smelled yeast, in the house, because we used to mostly eat biscuits and cornbread, unless we bought our bread at the store. And so when Mama made these biscuits, I distinctly remember the aroma from the oven because they have yeast in them. Now, some people cut out their angel biscuits, but Mama rolled hers, and they were really nice and fluffy, so we're going to do that today. But you can see that blending fork, how wide those grooves are in between, and it just makes it a snap. It really does. All right, after you have cut in your shortening, you're going to add about 1/8 cup of sugar and stir that in your flour. Good. All right, I'm going to just scoot this over a little bit. Now you're going to be using buttermilk, and it needs to be warm, not hot, lukewarm.
And I've already placed this in my microwave, and it's warm. It's a cup of buttermilk and our yeast. It has been activated. Smells really good. And now we're going to stir this together. Now, when you use your buttermilk, it has to be warm. So I actually poured up a cup of whole buttermilk, put it in my microwave for 1 minute, mixed it up really good, and it was just lukewarm. You don't want it to be hot, just warm. Now you can see this is nice and moist. I'm going to start adding flour. It should be about another half cup before it's over, until I think it's to the point that I can roll them lightly. Let me put that here. In an angel biscuit, you don't want to work a whole lot because it's going to be nice and light and fluffy. All right, I'm going to start using my hands at this point. So I'm going to put my stuff up. Get the sticky stuff off your hands. You're going to need some powdery dry hands to roll your biscuits. And remember, I said you do not need to grease the pan for these. Now your oven should be set at 425 degrees, and it should be preheated. All right, you're going to flour your hands. Add some extra flour around in the bowl so that you can get this nice and ready. And now I'm going to roll them. I'm just going to pinch it and roll it. You use your thumb and you tuck it in on the sides and you roll it. And it continues to roll, and the top of it lays in your palm and gets nice and soft. We're going to put it right here on the pan. And in time, you will learn about how much to pinch off, because everybody's hands sizes are different too. Like I got really big hands for a woman. And so mine would probably turn out bigger than most ladies because I do have really big hands. But you want the biscuit just large enough to fit in your palm so that it can be nice and pretty on the top. Just like that. Yeah, when I was little, my mama got up and made a big breakfast every day. We lived on a farm, and Daddy was a contractor. So he got up at 5. And my feet hit the floor when theirs did. And so I always watched my mama, and that's how I learned to cook. You know, you can't really learn to cook by recipe. You have to really watch a lot of things that people do in order to learn the techniques that they use. And rolling biscuits is really like a technique that you learn to do over time. And if you've never done it, they're really light and fluffy. I'll never forget Mama making biscuits when we had spaghetti, and a lot of people think that's really strange, but oh my gosh, to take a bite of spaghetti and take a bite of that fluffy biscuit, it was just something about it. I really enjoyed it. So it's what you get used to growing up that makes cooking and memories so fun. Now, Mama would make angel biscuits mostly for special occasions. She didn't make these all the time. She didn't always have yeast around because she didn't use a lot of yeast. And you can cut these out, but it's just not quite the same effect for the nice little fluffy angel biscuit. Because you want them to be like a roll, a cross between a roll and a biscuit. Two little ones. All right, we're gonna get these in the oven, y'all. They're gonna be delicious, and they're gonna make the house smell so good. All right, you're gonna want these to be lightly browned, not brown, so that they're more like a roll. It takes them about 15 to 20 minutes. So you just want to top them with a little butter because it'll make them nice and soft on the top and give them a really good flavor. Now we're going to mix up some cream cheese and orange marmalade to spread in between them. It'll be so good. We're going to start with a little bit of cream cheese, and it needs to be soft. And about half the amount of marmalade to cream cheese. So you can just eyeball it. You don't have to measure it. And you know, orange marmalade is really strong, but boy, is it delicious. And when you mix it with something like cream cheese, then it does tone it down just enough to be really good on a biscuit. Get it on here for you. Nice and hot. Gonna spread some of this on it. Now I'm gonna close it, give it a taste. It's so nice and fluffy. Kind of reminds me of a cloud. Maybe that's why they call them angel biscuits. Now, I remember Mama making these, and they taste so good. And that cream cheese with orange just makes them over the top. Oh, yummy.
Hey y'all, it's Tammy with Collard Valley Cooks, and today we're going to make biscuits. 2 ingredients. This is the most simple way to make biscuits there is, period. No cutting in the shortening or butter, so we're going to get started. The 2 ingredients are heavy whipping cream. Why? Because it has more fat in it than regular whipping cream, and self-rising flour. We're going to start off with self-rising flour because it has the baking powder and the salt in there already. And we're going to be using our White Lily self-rising flour. It's one of the best flours in the world to make biscuits with. Why? Because it's a white winter wheat. So I'm going to go ahead and pour the rest of this in my container here. We're going to be using 2 cups of this White Lily flour. There's your 2nd cup. And we're going to add our whipping cream as needed. I don't really know for sure how much, so I'm going to measure it for you guys so that you'll know. I'm going to start out with a 1/2 cup. We'll see where we're at. That's a cup so far of heavy
whipping cream. It's going to take it all. So that's 1.5 cups of whipping cream so far. That's going to work. 2 cups of self-rising flour and 1.5 cups of whipping cream. It's going to be perfect. You want your dough to be sticky, so that's the perfect amount there. Now, I'm actually going to hand roll about half of these, and then we're going to cut out the rest of them. I wanted to do it both ways. All right, you need to grease your pan. Since I don't have my shortening out for regular biscuits, I'm just going to spray it. And I'm just going to pinch off a little bit of the dough and roll it in my hand. Now, you don't have to, of course, roll them. You can cut them out. You just use your thumb and press around the bottom and roll it in your hand at the same time to do it that way. I'm going to do one more and then we're going to cut out the rest of them. I just thought I'd roll a few for y'all. I don't really know how your mama made the biscuits, but most people either roll them like this in their hand or they cut them out. That one's a little smaller, but that's all right. All right, we're going to go ahead and flour the counter a little bit. We're going to cut out a few. This is pretty stiff, this dough is. So I don't think there's going to be any need to work it a lot. Might could get one out of that. Try. All right, this is going to be delicious. Such an easy way to make a biscuit. 2 ingredient biscuits. Now, you don't have to be real talented to make a delicious biscuit if you make them like this. They're going to be delicious. And it's easy. Well, I guess I'll cut these out. At least one more out. I'll put this in here. This is my new biscuit pan. I'm excited about it. My granny always made her biscuits in this size pan. Of course, hers looked old as the hills. But it was like a brownie pan. 2-cup biscuit recipe fits in it perfect. We're going to get these in the oven, and I think I'm going to pat them on the top a little bit with this whipping cream. We're going to get these in the oven and get them baked at 450 degrees. The great thing about these biscuits, 2 ingredients, is the fat is in the whipping cream, and the flour is self-rising, so it has the baking powder and the salt in it already. Boy, you cut out a lot of steps when you make 2 ingredient biscuits. We're going to get this in the oven and we're going to bake them at 450 degrees for 20 minutes. We've got a minute left on the clock, but I think they're ready, so we're going to take them out.
It rose up nice and pretty. They have a speckly look on the top compared to the shortening biscuits. And we are going to open one up. You can see the rolled biscuits, of course, are larger. And then these are the ones that are cut out. Well, they look good and fluffy, don't they? I'll be honest with you, I've never had a biscuit made out of just whipping cream, but I've seen a lot of people do it. So I thought I would give it a try. They're beautiful, absolutely beautiful. We're gonna put some butter on them and have a little syrup on one. They're real flaky though. It's a very soft crumb biscuit. They're really good. Now they're a little pastier, what I would call pastier, want to stick to the roof of your mouth kind of biscuit, than a shortening biscuit. But by all means, they're absolutely delicious. You're gonna love them. If you're not experienced in cutting and shortening or butter into flour, this is a great alternative to make this 2-ingredient biscuit. Boy, is it delicious. All right, I have greased my biscuit pan. I use a brownie size pan to make a 2-cup biscuit recipe. It works great, okay? So I greased it with some Crisco or vegetable shortening. And this is sour cream biscuits. We're gonna be using White Lily self-rising flour. We're gonna use 2 cups. There's one. Self-rising flour already has the baking powder and the salt in it. Now that's a sour cream biscuit. So I have got an 8-ounce container of sour cream, which is equivalent to a cup. So if you have a larger container, just measure a cup. And then we're going to be using a 1/2 stick of butter. This is going to have a lot of butter and cream in it. So I'm anxious to see how these turn out because I've not made this recipe before. So we're going to be using a stick of butter, and it should be room temperature. And I'm going to take a blending fork and I'm going to blend it in to my flour until it's about pea size. So it only takes a minute to blend in shortening or butter when you are using a blending fork. They are less than, I believe, $10 on our website. If you want to get you one, there's nothing like it. They're wonderful. It goes right through there. And I know sometimes people grate butter, and I have done it even in the past and even have a recipe to grate butter, but I would rather use the blending fork than have to grate it. So once they look, there's no real big pieces left, it's ready. And now we're going to add the sour cream to it. We're going to see what consistency this turns out to be. All right, so you can tell that's not going to be enough sour cream to incorporate all of our flour. So I'm actually I think it should be about 8 ounces per cup of flour. So we're going to add another 8 ounces because they got to be a consistency that you can actually pat them out and make a biscuit with them. This is going to work perfect. So it's I think it's 8 ounces per cup of flour. So if you wanted to make a smaller recipe, you could use 1 cup of flour, 1/2 stick of butter, and 1 sour cream packet. But this is a 2-cup recipe. I'm going to go ahead and use my hand, y'all. That's the perfect consistency for a batter for a biscuit.
So let me get my sifter and we're going to pat these out and make some biscuits out of them. I'm curious to see how they turn out. So they got a lot of fat in them. They got all that sour cream and they got double the butter that a 2-cup biscuit normally has. We're going to put some self-rising flour in this sifter. Move our mess out of the way. And get some flour out on the counter. Be generous because this is pretty sticky. Gonna get our biscuit dough out on the counter. Very curious on this biscuit recipe. Very curious. Okay. It's a fluffy dough. So I'm going to knead it a few times. So I've kneaded about 10 or 12 times. And then we're going to pat it out. All right, so now we're going to cut them out. And I'm going to use kind of a larger biscuit today. Now these are really sticky in the inside. Because they've got a lot of fat in them. So I'm not sure how they're going to rise or anything, but we're going to see. I think they're going to be good though. I think they'll taste good. And I cut these pretty tall. Let me show you about how tall they are. They're about 3/4 of an inch. So this makes more dough than a regular 2-cup biscuit recipe because a regular one only has a 1/4 cup of shortening. All right, we're gonna get these in the oven and I'll do a video so y'all can watch them rise up. Okay, here they go. I'm gonna bake them at 450 degrees. See how our white lily biscuits turned out? Sour cream biscuits. They sure do look pretty. They're big and fat. Now I made these bigger than I normally make biscuits. And I typically flip my biscuits upside down after they come out of the oven. So we're gonna flip them upside down right quick. And I do it because Granny did it. That's what Granny did. Then she'd put them back in the pan. I'll pull these apart. Let you see how they look. And these look good, don't they? Very soft. They'd be good with gravy. All right, we're gonna pull one apart. It's hot, y'all. But it's not crumbly or anything. It looks really good. Can't wait to try it. I will put a little butter on it and try it. Well, I guess I should taste it without butter first. Whoa. Y'all? These just might be my favorite biscuits so far. They ought to be with sour cream in them and butter. Man, that would be amazing with gravy. They're super soft like the mayonnaise biscuits are. They're really easy to make. So you're going to use 8 ounces of sour cream and a half stick of butter per cup of self-rising flour. That's all there is to it. Man, these.
Hey y'all, I'm Tammy, and this is Collard Valley Cooks. Today we are making good old skillet bread, and I'm making skillet biscuits with all-purpose flour today. So these are baking powder biscuits. Now, what's so great about making a biscuit in a skillet? Well, if for some reason you're out camping and you don't have an oven, or whatever the case may be, maybe you live in an apartment and all you have is a stovetop element. You can make these delicious biscuits right there in a skillet, whether you're camping or at home. Alrighty, we're going to be using all-purpose flour, baking powder, salt, and buttermilk, and some shortening, of course. Got to have some grease in there. If you don't want to use shortening, you can substitute for butter. All right, we're going to start with 2 cups of flour, and this is all-purpose flour. I'm putting 3 teaspoons of baking powder in here. And a teaspoon of salt. And I'm just going to mix that up a little bit. Now you can sift those things together if you want to, but I'm just going to mix it. Make it easy. And today I'm going to use a little more shortening than I normally do. And I'm going to use a 1/3 cup of shortening. We'll make these a little different. All right, you're going to take a blending fork or some kind of blending tools. Mama just used a regular fork, but this blending fork, buddy, it does the job. See how it goes right through that shortening and gets that shortening cut into that flour so fast. It is wonderful. If you don't have a blending fork, I suggest you hop on over to our website at collardvalleycooks.com. You can get you a blending fork, a good old-fashioned sifter, and some beautiful biscuit cutters. Now you're going to want to blend this in there until the shortening is about pea size. We're going to add buttermilk until it's all blended together. If your buttermilk is thick, it'll take more buttermilk. If it's thin, it'll take less. If you don't have buttermilk, you can use sour cream. Just use 1 cup of sour cream to each cup of flour. And it's pretty much the same way with this. Now you're going to get them just stuck together and make sure you don't have any flour down in the bottom of the bowl left. That looks good. Just like that. Now we got some sausage over here going behind us. I think we'll flip it right quick. Today we're making some Swaggerty sausage. Me and Chris are going to have a sausage biscuit. I'm going to flip it over. It comes in pre-made patties. And there's how the box looks. It is absolutely delicious. We're going to flour our surface. I'm actually going to cut these biscuits out and make them on the stovetop in a non-stick skillet. Why? Because you don't have to worry about them sticking. But if you don't have one, you can use a skillet. Just make sure you grease it, okay? And now we're just going to put them out on the surface, and we're going to fold them a few times. Now, back in the day, my mama made one big biscuit in a skillet, and she called hers a hoe cake. Everybody has different names for it. It's according where you grew up. Some people call this skillet bread, okay? And you could use, a smaller skillet and just bake it like that. But we're going to make biscuits. We're going to cut them out about a 1/2 inch or so. How big you want them, Chris? This big? Let's make a big biscuit. We're going to cut them out and get them in the skillet. You're going to start them on a medium low. Just take the rest of your dough, knead it a little bit, cut you out another one, and another one. And then we're just going to roll this in our hands. Some people just roll their biscuits, and you can do that by just cupping the palms of your hands, or like what rolls it, and you cup your hands like that, and you use your thumb, and you rotate, and use your thumb to pat as you rotate. And then when you flip it over, it's a beautiful biscuit. All right, we're going to set our biscuits in here. Now, if you have a lid that's clear, it's good so that you can watch your biscuits as they cook. All right, there's our biscuit. Let's put the one I patted in the middle. All right, we're going to bring them over here to the stove top. And at first, we're going to heat it up on a medium. And then we're going to turn them all the way down to low. And you're going to put a lid on them. And we will have to flip them in about 10 minutes or so. So let's let them get to cooking. All right, once you start seeing the steam come to the top like this, you're going to make sure that it's on a low setting. And I'm going to put this on as low as it'll go and may still have a flame on the outside, but a really small one. And then if you have an electric skillet, you're going to want to use however big your skillet is the eye you need to have it on, okay? In other words, don't use a little bitty eye or element, some people call them elements, and have a really big skillet on top of it and turn it down on low, or the ones on the outside want brown on the bottom. Now, if you've got a good skillet, it should distribute the heat evenly, but you just never know. All right, we're going to take a look at them. They're rising. I just want to see how brown they are on the bottom. They're definitely rising pretty. Whoops. Whoops. They're getting just a little bit brown on the bottom. They're doing good. I say about 5 more minutes and we should be able to flip them over. Let me try to pull these apart. About 5 more minutes and we'll flip them upside down. Looks like they're baking good. They're rising pretty. And it's going to be delicious with our sausage from Swaggerty's. I'm going to have a mustard and sausage biscuit. All right. My element has the most fire in the middle. So I'm going to flip the middle one first. We're going to see how brown it is. See, it's going to be browner than the rest of them. So now we're going to flip these. All right, I'm going to try it with this and just see what happens. Yeah, that's a little better. So when you pick it up, gently touch it. You know, you don't have to really press it too hard. And remember that these are skillet biscuits, skillet bread. So they're not going to look like a pretty biscuit like you baked it in the oven. They're going to be flat because that's how they're browning. But they're going to be delish. If you have a gas stove and you use cast iron, right where the flame is, your bread's going to be darker, whether it's a whole piece or small ones like this, okay? This distributes the heat a little better, but even with that, because we have gas, that center has more flame, so that center biscuit is getting a little darker, okay? Just remember that it's according to how much heat is under here as to how they're going to brown. So the cast iron may not brown a whole piece of bread as pretty across it as a nonstick skillet would, okay? So just keep that in mind, whether you're using your gas or your electric. Try to use the skillet the same size as whatever the fire is. All right, y'all, they're ready. I really think they're ready. All you have to do is take the lid off, feel all of them, make sure that they're not doughy anymore. See if they're getting brown. I'm going to turn these off, and as I turn them off, we're going to add some pats of butter to the bottom. They're not super, super hot. You can actually just kind of pick it up. But it's better to use tongs, I guess, so you don't get burnt. I don't want to teach y'all to get burnt. So just rub it in the butter. And then you're going to put it on your plate. Rub it in the butter. Put it on the plate. We're going to put the butter side up on the plate. And that way it won't get our plate all greasy. Full of deliciousness, though. They look good. So if you're camping and you don't have a little oven and you want to make biscuits for breakfast, buddy, this is the way to do it. You can make these on a campfire. Easy. Now our little center biscuit is browner because it was in my center element. And there you have them. Okay, I'm going to make me a sausage biscuit, y'all. So yeah, if you're camping, this is perfect. Just open up your biscuit. Put you some mustard on there. You know, I might call these campground biscuits. Although we're not camping, they would still be easy to make if you were camping, wouldn't they? Now, I opened that one with a knife, but I'm going to show you, if you want to just crack open a biscuit, absolutely you can. Hey y'all, it's Chris and Tammy with Collard Valley Cook. From the Collard Valley Cook Kitchen, I am in the mood for biscuits and gravy and sliced cantaloupe. So we're going to start out with 2 cups of self-rising white lily flour. And these are 1/2 cup scoops. And it might have a little to grow on in here. Now, we're going to use about a 1/4 cup of shortening. And I might throw in just a little extra because I think I got a little extra flour in there. And now I'm going to use my blending fork and I'm going to blend this shortening into my flour. And it only takes about a minute till you get it about pea-sized, which is about what you want. To me, nothing is better than biscuits and gravy, and I'm making buttermilk gravy tonight. All butter and milk. It's going to be very tasty. That looks good for our biscuits. Now I'm going to be using some buttermilk. That beef is my oven saying it's ready for the biscuits. At 450 is what I bake my biscuits at. Now I add milk, buttermilk, until they're pretty sticky. And when I make biscuits for gravy, I like them to be just a little bit softer, even the batter, okay?
because I want them light and fluffy. And there's a difference. So you're going to watch me do these biscuits, and I'm not going to work on this much, okay? So I'll show you. They're not going to rise quite as high either. All right, let me put me some flour in here. Gotta hurry and get these in the oven and start our gravy. So you lay out a little flour. Really, that's about all I use my sifter for when I'm making biscuits. It's just putting my flour out on the counter. And then I sift a little on top of the biscuit mix. Somebody was asking me the other day, why do I have a sifter? That's just what I do, all right? Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fold these, but not much. So this is gonna be a sticky dough for the biscuits that I like to make with gravy, okay? So we're not gonna work on much. So let me just go ahead and pat them out. So they're a lot softer, okay? And I'm gonna cut them off. And they say don't dip your cutter in flour if you want your biscuits to rise higher. I don't know. That's what they say. We're gonna put some shortening in here so I can put my biscuits down in here. Okay, I rolled the last bit up with my hands. We're gonna lay it right there. And there we have it. Delicious biscuits for gravy supper. And we're gonna slice up a cantaloupe while we're waiting on them. I pat them with buttermilk. You don't have to. Okay, so we'll use a 1/4 cup of butter for our gravy. And that can start melting up real quick. And now I'm gonna slice up this cantaloupe. I got it today. I'm hoping it's sweet enough. We'll only eat half of it tonight. It looks good and sweet.
It does, doesn't it?
So I'm just gonna slice these and get them in this little bowl right here for supper with a paring knife. This is one of my Rada knives. You might want to get you a few of them.
Yeah, they're on the website if you want to find them.
You don't like them soft, do you, baby?
No, I like them.
I love them soft.
I like them a little green. Good taste.
Well, let me get the green rind off of it. All right, there you go. Probably how you like them.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I can't taste as good as I should.
That's plenty sweet.
Is it? See,
Yeah,
I'm just, my taster's not all that great. All right, I'm not putting my grease in with my butter. My butter's getting brown. We got to get this in there. So once your butter melts, you're going to add enough flour to equal the amount of butter you put in there, at least. And I'm adding a little bit extra. You want it to kind of look puffy looking. That's how you want it to look. And you want this flour to brown. You want to cook it and brown it a little. Now we're going to turn this up because I had turned it way down so that our flour gets brown. And I go ahead and I salt and pepper it. Nothing better in gravy than salt and pepper. Plenty of it. Pepper, yum. I've got 3 cups of milk over here in this little container. And when this gets done, we'll just pour it right back up in that same container. And that's what you want it to do so that it doesn't taste raw. Looks good. Once it's nice and toasty like that, then you add your milk. This is 3 cups of milk. I don't know if Chris bought extra milk or not the other day. If he didn't, he's out of milk again. All right. Now we're just going to wait for that to heat up and get all nice and bubbly and thick, and we're going to have supper. It's pretty gravy. Perfect. Perfect, creamy, delicious, good gravy. Good gravy, y'all. However you say it. All right. This was a summer supper. I figured since it was like summer out there today, we were going to have a summer supper, Daddy. Plus, I've been wanting something just kind of mild, and I think this will do me well. Now, when I get finished with my gravy in my cast iron, I always put water in it and let it sit for a little while. And then by the time we eat, it'll be easy to clean up. All right, we're waiting on those biscuits. That is all we're waiting on. You don't want them to be real dark when you're just making them for gravy, because we just break them apart and put the gravy all over the top of them. So they're getting nice and golden brown in there. And we're going to flip them upside down on this chopping block right here. And I about can't wait no more. I think that's perfect for gravy. You want them to be light and fluffy for gravy. So, come on over here, Daddy, and let them see them up close. They are so pretty and fluffy. You can tell when you don't put a lot of, when you don't knead them a lot, they do get fluffy. But they're not like layered biscuits, like if you fold them over and over like Chris made the other day. All right, we're gonna make a plate. I'm gonna show you how I make my gravy biscuit plate. And I take my biscuit, and I just break it apart. It is hot, good and hot. Fluffy. I always get 2, at least, when I have gravy biscuit. Don't that look good? Some of y'all probably thought they weren't dark enough, but they're perfect. All right, here we go. This is our beautiful gravy going on. You want plenty of it. You can always add a little more salt and pepper on it if you want to. Now I got a good bit in there. That looks good. And then all I'm gonna have is some sliced cantaloupe with it, 2 biscuits, and 2 slices of cantaloupe. And that's my supper, y'all. That's my supper, and I'm sticking to it. You talk about a good supper. Now that's a good summer supper. And today down in South Georgia, I don't know if it got to 80 degrees or not, but it was really close. So we're celebrating with a delicious gravy biscuit supper. Y'all have a wonderful day, and we thank you so much for watching Collard Valley Cooks, where we cook like Mama did. Hey y'all, it's Tammy with Collard Valley Cooks, and today we're making something I've never had, and that is a mayonnaise biscuit. I'm super excited to try it. A viewer sent me the recipe, and it starts out with 2 cups of self-rising flour. Now, of course, their recipe used plain, but y'all know me and my White Lily self-rising flour. So I've got 2 cups of White Lily self-rising flour. And now it calls for a 1/3 cup of mayonnaise. A 1/3 cup. I'm using my favorite, Blue Plate. You use your favorite. So that's a 1/3 cup of mayonnaise going in. All right. A tablespoon of sugar. And this is actually a half tablespoon, so I'm using 2. That's a tablespoon of sugar. Make it sweet. And a cup of milk. Now we are using regular milk in this recipe. And we're going to mix this up and grease our skillet. I'm going to bring y'all up a little closer so that you can watch me roll them. All right, and we're going to get them in a 450-degree oven. All right, we're going to grease an iron skillet. Our oven's preheated, it just beeped. Right on time. Okay. And I almost forgot an ingredient, and that is a tablespoon of melted butter. Let's go ahead and put it in here before we mix it up. And then you're supposed to have some butter for brushing the biscuits later. So I went ahead and melted a half of a stick of butter, which is an 1/8 cup, I believe. All right, let's mix these up. So if you have a hard time cutting and shortening, this is an easy way to make a biscuit because you just mix it up. Now some people do make biscuits with oil, which is about the same thing, I would think. But now I've never done that either. Go ahead and do a pretty good job of putting that mayonnaise in there and get it mixed in there good. Now you can see this is pretty wet, and we're going to be rolling these biscuits. So what I'm going to do, and of course they don't tell you this in the recipe, but we're going to take some extra flour, sprinkle on it, and kind of pat it around a little bit. Fold it over. Put a little bit more flour on this side because you're going to have it good enough to roll. And if it's really sticky, you're not going to be able to hold it in your hand. All right? That's about right. So that's about how you want it. And that's about how a biscuit ought to look, or the dough ought to look when you're just rolling biscuits, even if you're cutting and shortening. So I'm going to show you how to roll these biscuits. You do need some extra flour next to you. And you're just going to pinch off about 2.5 inch section of it. Let me go ahead and flour my hands good. Get it in your hand and roll it. And you can use your thumb and tuck in the creases so that what's left on the top is pretty and smooth. And it's stuck to my hand because this is a wet dough. Pretty wet. So we're just going to roll these up, put them in our pan, and you're going to have to continue with this wetter dough to put flour on your hands as you do this process. And this is how the rolled biscuit will look before you put it in the pan. And so I'm just going to sit this down here and keep going. And we're going to do this pretty quick. It is a wonderful and beautiful Saturday out there. So it has rained down here in South Georgia all week long. Chris and Paul have not got to fish hardly at all if you've got to watch any of these videos. And so one day they went to the Bass Pro Shop just to get out of the house because they just needed to get out of the house. We were ready for them too as wives. Oh, me. We're going to get these to cooking. And I'm going to have so many biscuits that I think I might make a biscuit bread pudding with them when I'm done. Since I already got a little sugar in them. Bet they'd be good with bread pudding, don't you? I got about too much on that. About got too excited and got too much on that one. You just barely touch them when you roll them. And it don't matter if they ain't perfect or if they don't look, all of them look just alike. Oh. It makes quite a few. It's going to fill up the skillet easy. And then some. I'm actually going to have more than I need. A tiny bit more than I need. We'll squeeze them in there, okay? Now you're going to bake these at 450 degrees. And they're going to bake for about 15 minutes. And then we're going to take them out and brush them with butter and then bake them another 5. So I will take them out and show them to you. We'll brush them with butter in 15 minutes. And then we will cook them another 5 minutes. So here we go. We're going to put them in the oven. All right. It's been 15 minutes. So we're going to brush these with some butter and get them back in there for the last 5 minutes. And they should be nice and toasty. Skillet's still hot. Okay, we're going to put them back in there and I'll be right back when they're done. Now remember, some mayonnaise does have garlic in it. The mayonnaise that I use does not, but your mayonnaise may. And if your mayonnaise has garlic as an ingredient, don't be surprised if they have a little bit of garlicky flavor, which would make them really good to go with supper. Not so sure about breakfast, but delicious for supper. Now mine don't have that because Blue Plate mayonnaise, and I don't believe Duke's has it either. But you can check out the ingredients on your mayonnaise before you decide to make a biscuit with it, just in case it's a little savory for breakfast and it might be better off used for dinner. All right, here's our gorgeous biscuits, and I mean they're gorgeous. Look at that, y'all, just gorgeous. I'm gonna flip them upside down so they don't sweat on the bottom. And that's how I always do my biscuits, okay? I flip them upside down. I want you to look at these mayonnaise biscuits. They are light, they are fluffy, they are tall, and they look good. They look really good, y'all. Woo! Those two are stuck together. That's a beautiful biscuit, y'all. It's hot as a firecracker, too. How pretty that biscuit is. I'll get me a black plate. That'll be even prettier. That's a pretty biscuit, y'all. Now I'm going to taste them. Thanks to Brian for sending me this delicious recipe, right? And I mean, they're beautiful. I mean, they are absolutely gorgeous. Nice and fluffy, tall, open right up, just stuff. Look at there, look at there. Yummy, yum. You know what I'm gonna put in this one? A piece of sausage with some mustard. I just happen to have a piece of sausage. And guess what I'm gonna make with the rest of them? I'm gonna make some biscuit bread pudding. Yes, I am. I found a new recipe I'm going to try. Does that look good? Or does that look good? Or does that look like I need to eat it? I won't taste the one with the sausage in it because I don't want to get burnt too bad. I want to open this one up and give it a taste, and I sure appreciate y'all watching Collard Valley Cooks. It's a good biscuit. Now you can taste a little bit of sugar in it, but it's good. It reminds me a little bit of the biscuits that you get at Cracker Barrel. As far as, I think they might put a little sugar in theirs. Really good. Woo! You never know what you're going to figure out. I am 52 and I've never had a mayonnaise biscuit. But I can guarantee one thing, I'm going to make them again. Thanks for watching Collard Valley Cooks, where we cook like Mama did.